What's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear small block Chevy? Maybe reliability, affordability, or the fact that they're practically everywhere. But here's the truth. These engines are far more than just common or dependable. They're absurdly, hilariously overpowered for what they are. It might sound exaggerated, but for more than 6 decades, these unassuming iron blocks have been delivering performance that still makes engineers around the world shake their heads in disbelief. The Chevy Small Block isn't just an engine, it's a statement about American engineering, about that old saying, "There's no replacement for displacement," the philosophy that still gives European designers nightmares. The story begins in 1954, when Ed Cole and his Chevrolet team sat down to create a V8 that could finally compete with the performance kings at Oldsmobile and Cadillac. At the time, Chevrolet was known as the sensible, budget-friendly brand, the automotive version of plain oatmeal, practical, nutritious, and boring. But the 265 cubic inch V8 that debuted in the 1955 Chevy changed everything. It produced a modest 162 horsepower, which might sound laughable today, but in 1955, that was seriously impressive. What no one realized then was that this simple foundation would become one of the most adaptable, most powerful engine designs in history. The original small block's basic structure was so well thought out that even today, modern versions based on the same layout can make over 600 horsepower naturally aspirated. That's nearly 4 times what the original engine made, and it's from the same fundamental design. Sure, technology has advanced, but the real secret lies in how forgiving and tough these engines are. They were overbuilt from the start. When hot rodders discovered this, the world of performance changed forever. Back in the late 1950s, you could take a basic 283 cubic inch small block, bolt on a 4-barrel carburetor and some headers, and suddenly you had 300 horsepower on your hands. Meanwhile, Ferrari needed exotic V12s and complex dual-cam setups to get similar numbers. That's the thing about the Chevy Small Block. It's accidentally brilliant. Its 4.4-inch bore spacing allows for massive bore increases without compromising cylinder wall strength. Builders can safely push displacement all the way to 427 cubic inches using a stock block, effectively transforming a small block into a big block without losing compactness. Add to that the incredible cylinder head airflow, and you've got an engine that can breathe, and breathing equals power. Even smog-era heads from the 1970s, often criticized as weak, can support 500 horsepower with the right porting work. Modern aftermarket heads? They move air like wind tunnels. Then there's the aftermarket support, which is nothing short of legendary. You can literally build an entire small block Chevy without using a single GM part. Cranks, rods, pistons, blocks, heads, intakes, you name it, someone makes it. It's the automotive equivalent of the Air 15, endlessly customizable, simple to understand, and far more capable than anyone expected. And the affordability is unbeatable. A used small block can cost just a few $100s. Add $1,000 worth of performance parts, and you've got a reliable 350 horsepower daily driver. Try doing that with a modern turbo 4-cylinder or European 6. You can't. Of course, it's not just about brute force. The Chevy Small Block's evolution into the LS series only amplified its legend. With aluminum blocks, modern fuel injection, and even stronger internals, the LS became the modern definition of indestructible. These engines can push 800 horsepower on a stock bottom end, something that's practically unheard of. You can throw boost, nitrous, or high RPM abuse at them, and they just keep running. Braking an LS has become a sort of challenge among tuners, and the engines still win most of the time. Since the 1950s, these engines have dominated almost every motorsport you can think of. NASCAR, drag racing, road racing, autocross, drifting. You name it. At one point, race organizations had to start banning them just to give other competitors a fighting chance. That's not just success, that's total domination. And here's the kicker, these engines aren't just powerful, they can be efficient too. Properly built small blocks can deliver 500 horsepower and still manage 25 miles per gallon on the highway. That's more efficient than many modern V6s, which makes absolutely no sense, and yet it works. Another secret to their enduring legacy is packaging. The Chevy Small Block is small for the power it makes, which means it fits into almost anything, from classic muscle cars to tiny imports. People have swapped them into Mazda Miatas, Porsche 911s, even into lawnmowers and boats. And despite their old-school design, just a single camshaft with push rods operating 16 valves, they can achieve hypercar-level power densities. In fact, some high-end builds make 200 horsepower per liter naturally aspirated, numbers that rival the McLaren F1, except you can build one in your garage for a fraction of the price. The simplicity is what makes them so beloved. One camshaft, a few push rods, and some rockers. That's it. No variable valve timing, no complicated electronics, just pure mechanical muscle. And yet it still competes with, and often outperforms, engines packed with modern technology. Then there's the sound, the deep, thunderous roar of a properly cammed small block at full throttle. It's not just an engine noise, it's an anthem of raw power and freedom, the kind of sound that makes the hairs on your arms stand up. And when it comes to maintenance, nothing else compares. You can rebuild one of these engines in your driveway with a basic set of tools. Parts are cheap, tutorials are everywhere, and even if you make mistakes, it's easy to start over. That accessibility is what taught generations of car enthusiasts how engines work. Every mechanic, every hot rodder, every car-loving grandfather has a story about building their first small block. It's not just an engine, it's a rite of passage, a cultural cornerstone that helps shape American car culture. From local dirt tracks to the biggest stages in motorsports history, the Indianapolis 500, Daytona 24, NHRA, Trans Am, the Chevy Small Block has left its mark everywhere. No other engine has achieved that level of influence or versatility. While other automakers tried to compete with Ford's Windsor, Chrysler's LA series, none quite captured the same magic. The Chevy Small Block didn't just power cars, it powered an entire generation's passion for speed, simplicity, and mechanical mastery.
Everyone in the industry tried to capture the same magic that Chevy's Small Block had. Its balance of simplicity, raw power, reliability, and potential. But the truth is, most competitors failed to come close. The Small Block's greatest strength wasn't just its muscle, it was its flexibility. You could mix and match parts from different generations like assembling a set of mechanical Lego pieces. Take heads from a 96 Vortec, a crank from an 86 350, and a 400 block from the 70s, and you'd probably end up with an engine that outperformed every single one of them in stock form. This modularity made it almost too good to be true. Beyond the part swapping, the efficiency of these engines was far ahead of their time. Later designs, especially the Vortec and LS heads, featured brilliant combustion chamber geometry. They offered fast, complete burns with minimal heat loss, which meant you could safely run 11-to-1 compression on pump gas without detonation, something that sounded like pure fantasy in the 1950s. Think about that, an engine architecture old enough to qualify for a pension, outperforming many modern engines with sophisticated electronics and sensors, all while running on a simple carburetor and distributor. No NOx sensors, no computers, no fancy variable valve timing, just mechanical brilliance that refused to die. Then there's the boost potential. If there's one thing small blocks absolutely adore, it's forced induction. Give a mild 350 a few pounds of boost and you're easily hitting 450 horsepower. Throw twin turbos on a stroked 427 and you're talking 1,500 horsepower without breaking a sweat, 2,000 if you're brave, 2,500 if you're insane. The LSX blocks, which are still built on that same fundamental design, can take over 3,000 horsepower without disintegrating. That's not just engineering evolution, that's black magic. Engines from the Eisenhower era were never supposed to handle this kind of power, yet here they are, outlasting and outperforming some of the most advanced motors in existence. Weight is another shocker. A fully aluminum LS engine weighs about the same as a Honda 4-cylinder, yet produces triple the power and double the torque. The power-to-weight ratio is almost comical, pure American excess without the penalty of bulk. It completely defies the logic of engine design, where power usually comes with compromise. Small Block said no thanks to that rulebook. They offered power, reliability, and even decent efficiency, all in one package. That's why they became the answer to almost every automotive question imaginable. Building a project car? Small block. Powering a boat? Small block. Need an engine for your apocalypse truck? Small block. The answer never changes. And the accessibility is unmatched. Walk into any auto parts store in America and you'll find shelves lined with high-performance small block components, intakes, heads, cams, all ready to bolt on. Try asking for performance parts for a Mercedes or BMW engine at AutoZone and watch the confusion. Meanwhile, with a Chevy Small Block, you have options: polished or raw finish, budget or premium, pick your flavor. This availability has fueled a culture of constant innovation. New porting techniques, cam designs, and tuning tricks spread through the community like wildfire. The collective knowledge behind these engines could rival NASA's database, and it's all shared freely because everyone's chasing the same goal: more power. The funny thing is, the small block has become so dominant that it's almost slowed innovation. Why bother creating something new when the LS or small block already does everything better, cheaper, and easier? Car builders across the world have realized this, which is why you'll find small block swaps everywhere, from drift cars in Japan to burnout monsters in Australia to European hot rods. It's universal respect born from unbeatable performance. When the entire world agrees that your pushrod V8 from the 1950s is still the best choice, that's checkmate. There are endless examples of how absurdly capable these engines are. People have put 400 horsepower small blocks in hybrids like the Toyota Prius just for the fun of it, and still managed 30 miles per gallon. The Turbo LS swap everything trend has reached hilarious levels. You'll find 1,000 horsepower LS engines shoved into Miatas weighing less than a ton. That's a power-to-weight ratio that outclasses million-dollar hypercars, all for the price of a used family sedan. The performance per dollar equation has never been this ridiculous. This accessibility has completely changed car culture. When anyone with basic tools and determination can build a 1,000 horsepower street car for under $20,000, supercars stop being impressive. Why spend hundreds of thousands when you can gap a Lamborghini with a garage-built project? It's performance democracy, speed for the people. That's the American dream in metal and gasoline form. Even other manufacturers couldn't resist trying to copy it. Ford's Cody V8 was built to outdo the small block, but ended up being more expensive and harder to modify. Chrysler's modern Hemi followed a similar story. Advanced, yes, but not as adaptable. Meanwhile, GM stayed true to the same formula, refining it generation after generation. The new LT engines are still, at their core, small blocks, only now with direct injection and variable valve timing. The philosophy hasn't changed. If it ain't broken, just make it faster. Grassroots racing owes it all to this motor. Every weekend in America, you'll find small blocks roaring down drag strips and tearing up dirt tracks. They made racing affordable, turning ordinary enthusiasts into competitors. It became a self-sustaining cycle. More demand meant more parts, which meant more innovation, which meant even more speed. It's a beautiful loop of mechanical obsession that refuses to end. The story of the small block is one of pure unintended genius. What started as a modest V8 meant to compete with Oldsmobile ended up sparking 70 years of automotive chaos. Today, these engines are still used to teach students in technical colleges. The perfect blend of simplicity and sophistication. They're not just engines anymore. They're the backbone of an entire culture. Engine builders like Steve Morris and Nelson Racing have turned small block building into an art form, crafting engines so powerful and reliable that even Formula One engineers would take notes. And yet somehow these engines keep getting better. Every year, someone figures out how to squeeze a little more power, a little more efficiency, and a lot more reliability. The progress is relentless. Evolution by enthusiasm and capitalism combined. The small block has thrived not because of corporate strategy, but because people simply refuse to stop making it better. The EPA has tried to kill it, regulations have tried to tame it, technology has tried to replace it, but none of it worked. Modern LS engines still meet California emission standards while making 600 horsepower, a direct slap in the face to environmental limitations. They're clean, fast, and unapologetically loud. Even the military trusts them. When reliability means survival, they go with proven pushrod power. And as for electric cars, sure, they're quick, but a twin-turbo LS with 2,000 horsepower and no 800-pound battery pack will still leave a Tesla questioning its life choices. Plus, it sounds like thunder instead of a blender. The cultural impact is undeniable. The phrase, "drop a small block in it," has become part of American folklore. a shorthand for turning the ordinary into the extraordinary. It's a symbol of mechanical freedom, raw ingenuity, and a little bit of madness. The fact that an engine designed in the 1950s is still relevant, powerful, and accessible in 2025 is nothing short of miraculous. Chevy didn't just create an engine, they accidentally built a legend. Something so overpowered, so versatile, and so deeply woven into automotive DNA that it transcends time itself. Competing with it is pointless. You don't fight it, you embrace it, because sooner or later, every car enthusiast faces the same realization. The small block isn't just an engine, it's a way of life. Long live the small block, the loud, indestructible, and beautifully absurd heart of American power.